There have been many men throughout history to voice the legendary character of Son Goku, specifically the adult version of Goku, in many different languages. But on this video, I want to discuss the history of the voice of adult Goku, the main character of Dragon Ball, delve into the voice actors, compare pros and cons, and of course, joining me, well, let's just say that I couldn't find anybody better fit to talk about Goku than Goku.
Lord Frieza demands that you subscribe to this channel and follow Mr. Geekdom on these social media platforms.
Son Goku is one of the most legendary and most iconic characters in the history of anime all over the world. All over the entire globe, he is recognized globally as the face of Dragon Ball and one of the faces of Japanese anime, and dare I say, just Japanese entertainment. Everybody knows who Goku is, and on this video, I wanted to kind of talk about Goku's portrayal in the West, primarily the North American, I suppose you could say, dubs of Dragon Ball Z adult Goku. There have been 4 gentlemen to voice Goku throughout the years in the official, English dub of the TV series. James Corlett's one, Peter Kelamis was the second, followed by Schemmel and Kirby Morrow. There are obviously others, such as Michael Ian Black is rumored to portray him in the Kai Ocean dub. We haven't heard that yet officially, as well as Steve Bloom, who voiced him in the Dragon Ball GT Final Bout game. But I want to focus on just these 4 because they voiced Goku more than anybody else. But joining me here in the discussion, a man who may have voiced Goku just as much as at least 75% of them did, the 5th English dub Goku, and everybody, a man who's beloved throughout the world, legitimately. Please welcome MASAKO X, or as many of you will know him, Goku from Dragon Ball Z Abridged.
Mate, you're too kind. I mean, really, again, as I always preface, and I always like to say, I am literally just a guy in a corner doing silly voices. That just so happens to be voicing Goku in an internet parody.
A very popular internet parody, voicing one of the most iconic characters in anime. But hey, if you didn't do a great job, you probably wouldn't still be around. So,
well, thank you though. That's really appreciated.
And you, of course, like everybody in Team 4-Star, I think that sometimes people, people love Team 4-Star, but I think a lot of people sometimes forget how hardcore you guys are for the actual series, how much you love Dragon Ball, because if you didn't, and how knowledgeable you guys are, because if you didn't, you wouldn't even be doing it. It wouldn't be as fun anyways. So I figured if we're going to talk about Goku, English dub Goku, there's nobody better than you, man, because, you've listened to all these voices, and you listen to Masako Nozawa. You're kind of named after her, so I figure...
Well, that's true. My pseudonym online is basically inspired by Masako Nozawa. Yeah, just her voice is astounding. All of us at Team 4-Star, we eat, live, breathe Dragon Ball every day. There is not a day that goes by that I'm not looking at something that is Dragon Ball related.
It's so much fun too.
We have to love what we do, and we have to love Dragon Ball. If we didn't love Dragon Ball, then what are we doing?
Right? Yeah, a deep hardcore love. So let's talk about Dragon Ball Z. Let's go back to 1995, 96. Really more so 96. The original Dragon Ball Z dub that was produced by Funimation with help from Saban and Pioneer, and it was produced in Ocean Studios, the legendary Ocean Group, as folks have called them. And we're going to start the discussion by talking about a man who really has blown up lately. He was in Sausage Party. He's been doing cartoon voices forever. He did Mega Man. He was in Ranma. His resume is absolutely astounding. We're going to talk about James Corlett, the original Goku. Let's play a clip.
My name is Goku, and I live here! Now leave us alone!
Look, I've got everything I ever wanted right here on Earth. All I need is my family. Funny. As grim as things look right now, I kinda like the challenge.
So Mr. Corlett was the first guy to portray Goku. He portrayed Goku from the beginning of Dragon Ball Z into the early Namek saga, and then for reasons unbeknownst to me, he was replaced by Peter Kelamis. I'll try to investigate as to why that is one of these days. But Mr. Corlett actually was the first Goku, the first one that many of us heard over here as little kids in the 90s. And I think that one thing that Corlett has, because he's a really talented voice actor, is he's got got the heroic Goku voice down pat.
Absolutely. And I think the reason why they did that was because Saban at the time, because the one thing that people have to understand is that Dragon Ball, for the first 53 episodes, with the Pioneer dub or the Ocean dub or the Saban dub, whatever dub you call it, it's essentially the dub, which we could probably say the Rock the Dragon dub.
Yes.
It is pretty much that. And Ian Corlett was cast because Saban knew about how to make superhero stuff, live action stuff with Power Rangers and Masked Rider and all that kind of stuff. They needed something that sounded like a Saturday morning kids TV show. And Ian Corlett got that down because he has that, I fight for my family and stuff like that. He has that power, he has that energy, he has that youthful drive. And one thing I notice is that people, when they start getting the voice of Goku, they're either in their late 20s or in their early 30s, which is about right for where Goku is most of the time throughout Z.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think with Corlett, and one thing I want to touch upon that you said was the whole, ally to good, nightmare to you, which was actually Schemmel, but the whole superhero portrayal of Goku, which is only a part of his true character. We know that the real Goku just is kind of obsessed with fighting, so to speak. The Goku that's given to us from the original dub, which carried into the Funimation dub, is more of a superhero. But again, you could still say that even though Goku does selfish things, he's still a hero. I mean, he still does care. The thing about Corlett that hits me is that he is so confident with every voice he does. He was in Beast Wars, Sonic the Hedgehog, but he's also very recognizable too.
When you can hear Ian Corlett, you really kind of get that it's Ian Corlett. Because I don't know whether it's anything to do with 90s microphone technology, but it's got that sound. And not saying that it's bad quality, but you just know it's him.
How important do you think that versatility is for a voice actor? In other words, how important is it for a voice actor to be able to mask who they are? Does that matter to you, or is it just a case-by-case thing?
It depends on how real the characters are. I mean, obviously, if you want someone who's meant to be playing a demon or some magical entity, you want something that sounds like a magical entity. Whereas Corlett doesn't need to play much. He needs to play a guy who for the longest time he thought was human, but is now Saiyan, but a humanoid who fights for his friends, is a good guy, and likes food.
Yes.
And just exuberant. That's what you need. And nothing more, nothing less. Because I hear so many dubs where if that character is not human, they add a filter, and it sounds weird. Whereas this dub was uncomplicated. I really did not have much problems with that dub. Because when we got this in the UK around 2000, because we didn't get it on net TV until the year 2000, Ian Corlett was pretty much the first person I heard.
Yeah, I would say that Ian Corlett is probably the most mainstream out of all the guys we're talking about today because of the recent stuff he's done. But one thing I will say, guys, everybody, a lot of people love Sean Schemmel, but And I respect everybody that we're talking about today as far as their talent goes, but I think Corlett was like the baseline. Every other Goku past Corlett was based on his voice.
Absolutely. If Corlett or Kelamis hadn't done a good job, then the directors at Funimation wouldn't have told Schemmel to basically be a sound-alike.
Pretty much, and that's what he was at first.
They would have just said, just come up with something new.
Yeah. And Schemmel does. They're similar, but they're not identical. But we'll get to Schemmel here shortly. Next up, I want to talk about the man from the Great White North. Well, I think a lot of these guys are Canadian, but no. Let's talk about Peter Kelamis.
Why don't you back off and leave my friend alone?
So you're Goku.
And you must be Cell.
But are you saying that Gohan studies are more important than saving Earth?
Before we get this show on the road, I'd like to know how you knew all of our names.
With Kelamis, he replaced Ian Corlett early in the Namek arc, and he would also go on to do the Dragon Ball Z movies. Now, I'm fairly certain that Corlett voiced the TV episode cut of the Tree of Might, which is a video for a whole other day here we're going to get into later on. But Kelamis did the original 3 Dragon Ball Z movies, which to me I consider them the greatest Dragon Ball Z dubs for years until Kai and Resurrection F, I would say, in Battle of Gods. Kelamis, to me, Masako, man, he was a little different than Corlett in that his voice was more like this. Like, he had more like pauses. He had more of a Canadian accent, but his, so that was kind of off-putting a little bit, but I think his strengths, I think the one thing he's been able to capture, and I don't know if it's ADR direction work or if it's voice direction work or if it's just him doing his homework, is that specifically with Dragon Ball Z Movie 2, The World's Strongest, the fact that he was able to channel Nozawa, the Kaioken scene, and the scene where he's fighting, the biomechanical, robots or whatever for Dr. Weedle, that scene is so Nozawa. He's the one voice actor that was able to capture Nozawa and capture what I guess would be the Corlett, Schemmel, heroic Goku in one character, and that's incredible to me.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Kelamis is my favorite Goku. In fact, he just seems like a nice guy in general. He follows me on Twitter, and he just seems so laid back and chill. And he's actually a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
In real life. So he knows all about delivery, pacing, and, having to carry a lot of energy, especially in front of a live audience. Kelamis is the voice that makes up most of the DNA of the DBZA Goku. Because, as you say, he has that kind of superhero thing down, but he's kind of going up in the ante. So let my son go right now. So the Goku is, the artist is really kind of punctuate, like punching like a big punchy thing. And Kelamis has that. Corlett didn't get to embrace what Goku would become in Z, which is just a lot of shouting and punching people. Corlett's was more subtle and more conventional, whereas Kelamis got to try some of the more like Kaioken, like all that kind of stuff. And yeah, he got to experiment a little more.
Yeah, and just for a frame of reference, he came in the early Namek arc all the way until the Raccoon episode where we had the cutoff. Then, of course, for those of you who don't know, there was no Ocean dub of the Frieza saga and the Garlic Jr. They skipped all that, and then they started back up with the Android arc. And so he was there until right around, like, before the Cell game, right around that time. And then he was replaced by Kirby Morrow. But yes, and the thing about Ian is that I think that his comedy as Goku, I think, is fantastic, especially in the stuff where he's alone on the ship going to Namek. I thought that was, and of course, like you say, he's a stand-up comedian. I think he nailed the comedic aspect of Goku a little more, like the high-pitchedness of it. I think with Sean, I don't think he really captured that Goku until deeper into the series, especially Resurrection F. You could tell there was something going on there with Sean's portrayal of Goku. I thought it was really well done. Kelamis did it first, I would say.
Absolutely. Ian definitely did have that, well, sorry about that. I just saw Vegeta screamed out attack, so I did. But then Kelamis took that and then ramped up the energy. Makes me feel really good whenever I hear it.
He's amazing.
Oh yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Now, would you agree that his best performance ever was World's Strongest? I thought that was his best performance.
Yes.
I gotta whack him with the Spirit Bomb. Just epic, bro, the way he said that. I think so, anyways.
Knock 'em, suck 'em, Spirit Bomb.
All right. Okay, up next we're going to talk about his replacement from the Ocean dub, a voice that not many fans heard unless you actually sought it out, but a very controversial one. Kirby Morrow is next.
Don't worry, son. You've got all the power you need to beat these guys. Just remember how to fight with your feelings like you did against Cell.
Vegeta, I don't understand. You've never allowed anyone to help you in your life. Why start now? Why bother? You liar! I ain't buying it!
So Kirby Morrow picked it up for Kelamis, and he pretty much did the rest of the series from the Cell Saga all the way to the end of the Buu arc, and a lot of mixed opinions about him. Now, first and foremost, I want to say that Kirby Morrow is a tremendous voice actor. He was in Gundam Wing, he was in Escaflowne, the original dub, he was in Ranma. He has a great resume, really, really great resume. They brought him in because Peter left the project. I'm not really sure why that is, but he left the project. Again, these are mysteries that we're going to delve into later. But Kirby Morrow comes in, and his Goku, a little different. He's much more like if Corlett made Goku kind of deeper, and of course you also have the SS4 Sean Schemmel Goku. I think that Kirby Morrow's Goku is really deep, and he still, I think he sounds the most like Ian Corlett, I think, but not exactly. Like, how would you rate Kirby Morrow? Because I think he gets a lot of flack, and I think he's the least favorite out of these four, but I don't think he's terrible. What do you think?
No, absolutely not. Morrow did a valiant performance as Goku. Nobody likes it when they have to recast the main character, in anything, let alone Dragon Ball Z. But Kirby Morrow, I like what he did. I like what he did. First of all, I will say, bless him, he can't scream. He can't scream that well, because he tries. I like him. Yeah, he's plucky, but it just didn't sit well with me, the screaming. But that's all the negativity I have to have. Morrow sounds the most normal, like
a regular
human.
Guy, like a regular,
yeah, like a regular guy.
Yeah.
And Goku, most people forget this. Goku is a country bumpkin who grew up in the mountains for the first 14 years of his life, and he is meant to be quite. It's full of energy. He's plucky, and Morrow could do that. And he fought, and he was like a good guy. He sounded like a good guy. He was a worthy replacement to Kelamis.
Yes.
And I felt like he did come in at a time when Dragon Ball Z descended into screaming, and that was unfortunate. And that is taxing. And trust me, I'm starting to get into that moment where there's a lot of screaming, and that's hard. It's tough. It's not easy. Bless him for even just giving it a go.
I agree with you. I think that he's so talented, so I feel bad saying this, but I don't think he was the best choice for Goku, but I feel like it was one of those things where they didn't have enough time to do an open audition to find a new Goku. They were like, okay, who can we find who has a lot of talent, who could probably pull this off, and that's who they found.
He was a dependable Goku. However, people should give him the recognition he deserves. He plays Goku as a nice guy. Not necessarily a superhero, but a nice guy. And Goku is a nice guy.
And would you say that Corlett is the most heroic of the Gokus, and then Kirby's the more down-to-earth? If you were to put them on like a level, like Corlett's more heroic, the most heroic, and then the other two are kind of in the middle?
Yeah, I would say that Corlett is the most heroic, because that's just down to the casting of Saban. Kelamis has the more energy, so that makes Goku sound like a maverick, which he is. So that's completely accurate, and that's why I love that voice, because he's a wild pocket rocket. And Morrow is a regular guy.
So we've talked about the ocean guys now. Let's get to the guy who most people, I would say 90% of the fan base, recognize the definitive voice of English Goku, because he's done so much. This is the only voice actor who's voiced Goku English dub. Dragon Ball, Z, GT, every episode, all the movies that have been done by Funimation. This is Goku. Let's talk about Sean Schemmel.
It's not too late for you to leave this planet. Your choice. But if I were you, I'd get out of here. I was hoping that we could join forces and work together against those guys. Well, how does that sound to you, Vegeta? Will you do it?
Yeah, this is just another costume change for the weakling Saiyan. Punches only tickled like a tiny feather.
Holy crap! That's incredible! Just what kind of training did he do? I'll tell you this, you're no pushover, that's for sure. If you weren't rotten to the core, you'd actually make a perfect sparring partner for me.
So with Sean Schemmel, I think that it's kind of challenging, because he's done so much more Goku than any of the other voices here. So it's very hard to talk about this, because there's so many, places to pull information from and samples from. I personally feel, Masako, that Sean's early Goku on Namek was very, very amateur. I'm just being honest about that. And that's because I don't think he knew what he was doing. He was new. He was told copy, Peter, all these different reasons. And then I think he grew into the role. I think that by the time that we got to the Buu arc, he really kind of figured out what he was doing. And as much as, a lot of the purists don't like it, he did knock it out of the park with his screams. I think he really puts his effort into his screams. I really think so. I thought he did a fantastic job in the Buu arc. I think everybody got really good, and then in GT, it's kind of here and there. But I like the way he portrayed SS4 Goku. Very different than any other Goku. Extremely deep, just vastly different, and I think it worked. I remember Nozawa did something very similar, and then we have, of course, the Sean Schemmel from Kai, who obviously 10 years had passed. He was going to be a better, more versatile voice actor. He had done so many roles. He was better then. And then to me, I think my favorite portrayal of Goku is Schemmel in Resurrection F, because even though in the past he said that he doesn't really take too much from Masako Nozawa, in Resurrection F, I like how he was doing the whole, oh my goodness, Lord Beerus. He had that high-pitched kind of thing. And then when he fought Frieza, he lowered his pitch, hey, you'd be a pretty good sparring partner. I think we were seeing a guy in Schemmel who got better and better as the years went by, but he got off to a slow start. That's my opinion.
I would say that, well, actually, curiously enough, as you say, Nozawa Super Saiyan 4, a lot of people say that her Super Saiyan 4 portrayal is a lot like how she plays Goku Black.
Similar, yeah.
So I would imagine that that's probably where she got the original idea from. In the UK, we had a very mixed up delivery of Dragon Ball Z. Every 20 episodes, it would change from Funimation to Ocean, then back again, and then back again. So it was a very muddled time to be a Dragon Ball Z fan in the UK. And any of your British viewers will be able to attest to that. Schemmel has the drive, the power, and can absolutely say without a question, if you want Goku to be a hero, Schemmel's your guy. I mean, no doubt. And really, when it comes to the amateurness of the beginning, I would have to say that everyone in that new cast was amateur. And Sabat will say that himself. They were using dub footage from Mexico. They weren't getting it from Toei. They were using very, very old equipment to do the ADR stuff. They were having to, muddle their way through for the first 2-3 years of the dub.
And it was very rushed. Don't forget that one.
Exactly. They were under time constraints. Funimation hadn't really gotten into their stride until probably 2005 when they had that rebranding. When they got their Funimation, you should be watching.
When Barry Watson left?
You could say that, yes.
Okay.
After they stepped into the Grand Tour and then promptly stepped out again. And they needed fresh blood. And Schemmel's screams are, without a doubt, a wonder to behold, a wonder to listen to. And I would have to say the best example of this is his Super Saiyan 3 scream in Fusion Reborn. That just sounded insane.
Yeah.
I don't care if there was splicing or anything like that. There probably wasn't. But yeah, it just sounded insanely wild, visceral, and intense. It was just, oh my goodness. I mean, whenever you hear Schemmel, when he's just in his element saying, leave this planet right now, or else or else I'll have no choice but to fight you. Yeah, you go ooh, okay, we're gonna have a bit of a ding dong, aren't we? So you get pumped, and a lot of the Dragon Ball Z fans want to get pumped. That's what people come for.
Same thing with Corlett, though. I would say
yeah,
Corlett,
absolutely.
Yeah,
Schemmel is the Goku of this generation. The Saban generation, Corlett's your guy. Corlett's got you covered for that generation. But for the 2000s, 2010s to present day, this is just Schemmel's the person you're going to call.
I mean, I would say most of our audience, both yours and mine, probably grew up on Schemmel. They tend to be a little just a couple of years younger than me, because really the Saban generation was only for about 3 years. I mean, if you were just 3 or 4 years younger than me or more, Schemmel's the guy you grew up with. Plus, Kai has Schemmel too, so we've got 2 or 3 different generations that are experiencing Schemmel. I
mean,
he's always going to be Goku forever. I mean, that seems to be the case, right? So.
Absolutely, without a doubt. His position as Goku is rock solid.
Yes.
And he is just on his game. He knows what he's doing. The Dragon Ball Z Kai thing is absolutely reliable, steady, and you're always going to have a good time. You're always going to have a good time when Schemmel's on board.
And I'm also wondering how they're going to portray the SS Blue Kaioken scene in Super when that gets dubbed. I think that'll give him a chance to scream again. A lot.
Well, I suppose he got a bit of an element of that in Resurrection F.
So to wrap up, all 4 Gokus brought something different to the table. We definitely want to hear comments down below. And what I want to do, guys, is I want to really disconnect the nostalgia here. I'm sure most folks are going to say Schemmel, but it's kind of unfair because there's so much more to pick from Schemmel than there is everybody else, right? So it's almost like, yeah, this guy's Goku forever. You can't really compare it, but just understand that had it not been for Kelamis and for Corlett to kind of put food on the plate for everybody to eat, I mean, we don't even know if Schemmel would have even been Goku. You know, if they had got a totally different guy to do Goku, maybe Schemmel would have never been Goku. You know, it's one of those what ifs we'll never know.
I would say that a good question to ask yourself is this. When you're coming up with your thoughts in the comments, think, if you were to have never seen Dragon Ball Z in your life, and you heard each of those voices, Ian Corlett, Peter Kelamis, Kirby Morrow, and Sean Schemmel,
that's right,
blind, what would be the best?
All right, everybody check out. Obviously, you guys know Team 4-Star. I don't even need to promote them because it's, I mean, well, come on now. But check out MASAKO X's channel. You actually tell the people about your channel because you have a channel separate from Team 4-Star where you do your parodies and your wacky segments that I personally enjoy.
Oh, yeah. Well, my channel is mainly, I talk about Dragon Ball a lot. And I actually put out today a How to Goku video. And it was just talking about how I came up with the voice for Goku for DBZA, as well as talking about all the components of it and how I got into it, how I came up with it, and just then doing the super reviews every week. I'm always excited whenever they get them. I'm always waiting until I can actually get the version I can understand. And then I just talk about it. I try to do it in a very short, snappy way. So I just talk about certain scenes and then put a comedic twist on it. And if I ever do down on a scene, it's never because I want to do down on it. It's just because there's just a joke in there. And I think what people want to come out of it saying, oh, well, I really like that episode. Let's see what MASAKO has to say. And people can relate. So they go, I know, right? And then, of course, I do bad fan fiction theater.
I was just going to talk about that.
Yeah, and I always make sure to do at least 3 or 4 DBZ fanfictions a season.
Thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me and talking about the history of Goku. Thank you again, MASAKO X, and we'll talk to y'all down the road.